Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another movie review. We continue our look at the classic X-Men movies, or the X-Men movies. Whether or not they're classic is up for debate, but nevertheless we take a look at the X-Men movies here. We're continuing our look at the X-Men movies. And this time around, our band of merry mutants are fighting an ancient mutant, the first mutant, in fact, sealed away thousands of years ago, who now has awoken. And how won't they be able to cope? Let's find out as we review X-Men Apocalypse. So, as always, I'm not professional movie reviewer, movie analyst, or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, which I kind of had for the most part watching this movie. Now, to be honest with you guys, this was a movie I saw when it first came out in theaters back in 2016, and as we often did, especially with like the X-Men movies. Is this my favorite X-Men movie? No. Is it? It as this is a movie I remember just liking a lot more back then. Do I like it more than I did back then? Kinda. And that's the joy of doing reviews and stuff like this, is that you essentially get to revisit. For starters, I get to talk about these movies with you guys, but also I get to revisit movies I've seen a while ago in the past that I hadn't seen either in a while or I don't remember as much. In this case, it's a movie that I hadn't seen in a bit. I don't think I've seen this movie since I saw it in theaters. So now that some time has passed, it's been about 7 years or so since this movie came out. So about 7 years since this movie came out. Now that I have a new perspective, having everything, now that I'm a bit older, a bit wiser, kinda, but now that I'm a bit older, how has my perspective of it changed? Let's find out. So, as always, with these reviews, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the movies. And starting with what I liked. This definitely really feels like really full swing into a new beginning of things. Days of Future Past, which if you haven't already, go check out that review. But Days of Future Past kind of established, kind of like a passing of the torch almost. First Class obviously established this new universe we're going into, and then Days of Future Past was really passing the torch from the old X-Men over to the new ones, the younger ones, as it were. Or so, making that transition over. This is when we're really full swing into it, and we do kind of start to build up this sort of new team of X-Men, especially with the timelines being rewritten. So our major X-Men we have here are, for starters, of course, Professor Xavier, aka James McAvoy's take on Professor Xavier, or who we actually see here, at least in this timeline, how he lost his hair, and that has to do with Apocalypse, which we'll get into. And then we have Mystique, aka Raven, and then we have Beast, of course, her still at first suppressing his beastly image, but now no longer. Then we have Quicksilver, aka Peter Maximoff. I was supposed to be Pietro, but it's Peter here. And I actually remember that this iteration of Quicksilver, not too far off, at least in terms of timeline, as in when we saw this character versus the MCU's interpretation, because as first it was Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, then the MCU's version in Age of Ultron, and then we see him again here in Apocalypse. And so people then have debated which Quicksilver they liked more, or that being this one or the MCU. For me, Because I saw Age of Ultron again as I was revisiting the MCU not too long ago. Oh, a lot of people lean more towards the MCU one, as he seems a bit more accurate. This one a bit more, I guess, laid back, if you will. Oh, oh, and and both of them are young. Both of them are essentially teenagers. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Then we have Cyclops, aka Scott Summers, who in this timeline is actually the younger brother of Alex Summers, aka Havoc, which is a bit of a flip because traditionally, at least in the comics, Scott is supposed to be the older brother, but this time around he's the younger brother. Which I think is an interesting choice. It's not one of those like oh my god, totally against it. Why is he the younger brother? But I think it was a choice, especially because Havoc was introduced first, and then we introduced Scott. So him being the younger brother, I guess, makes sense on that front. Then we have Jean Grey, who we see is very close to Professor Xavier, because they're both telepaths. Although Jean Grey has added telekinetic abilities. And we'll see some of the progression of her later on in this movie with a certain ability she has. We have she doesn't really he doesn't really play as big a role as the other students in the movie, which does kind of suck, but she's still there, and that is Jubilee. He more so just hanging around the other students, but I do wish he got a bit more time to shine. But we also have Nightcrawler. We're introduced to him and one or two X-Men who will join the X-Men later on Apocalypse's side. But that's like our main X-Men team. And going with this team, not a bad choice. Like, especially because like most, if not all, of these characters are ones that they introduced in the original X-Men timeline. So to kind of see them and her humble beginnings here, is interesting. And he also unfortunately end up losing Havoc as he accidentally destroys the X Mansion and dies in the blast. But we see him there, and we see how it affects Scott. But then over on our villain side, we have Storm, who then will transition over to the X-Men, and keeping her origin of her being like a poor thief and everything, and our main villain, who will get to using her powers. Then we have Psylocke, who has the sword and everything. Originally, we see her with Caliban, which Caliban we will also see coming up later in the X-Men movie. In fact, in the very next X-Men movie that we're going to review. Then we have Angel, who becomes the Archangel, after gaining his metal wings from our main villain. Then we have Magneto, who tries kind of to live like a peaceful life, working in a factory and everything, but he's found out after saving his coworkers, so now he's back to hating humans. And we do see kind of his justification for his actions, because he tried, as he put it, tried living in doing things the way Xavier puts it, where trying to live in peace with the humans. He has a wife, daughter, but unfortunately they're taken from him after he's found out, and the police come after him. And then he's found out, he's on the run and everything, and so we see those characters, and then we get into our main villain, Apocalypse. Apocalypse. I'll get into it more in a bit, but having Apocalypse here, I feel like they do, when it comes to his origin and some of his powers, they scratched the surface, but I feel like they could have went a bit deeper into it. And like I said, we'll get into it when I talk about the things I didn't really like as much about the movie, and one of these will be evident from just his appearance, um, but I do like how they do show some of his power, and they, for the most part, treat him like a big deal. Well, pretty much having the ability to wipe things out. They have the origin of him being in ancient Egypt, and him, and him being the first mutant and everything, changing what the X-Men and the world know about mutants and their origin, and especially as he was being investigated by Moira McTaggart, who comes back from First Class and even has her memories restored by Professor Xavier. But Apocalypse, for the most part, they treat him like a big deal. Oh, but I feel like they could have went further in terms of not just his appearance but his powers and everything. Yeah. We have the characters, we have the moving parts, and I do like how they play into Jean Grey and her power. I feel like Jean Grey definitely gets quite a bit of time to shine, not just with this, but the appearance of the Phoenix, which will become more evident later on in the next of our X-Men related movies. We do have one or two pit stops before we get there, though. Yeah, so we'll do. So trying to set everything up, trying to set everyone up, and as these are characters that we'll see later on down the line in the timeline, but more so trying to set them up, and I think for the most part they do okay with it, trying to go from just school, just Xavier's school for the gifted youngsters with abilities to a fighting force in the X-Men, taking on threats around the world. We see that set up there, and we see how that progresses is as well. And like I said, we see some people such as Storm coming over to the X-Men side, and apparently the other team of mutants in First Class that were a part of the X-Men team. They insinuate that they passed away. Unfortunately, I think the only ones that I can think are Banshee. But I just kind of suck that they're canonically dead here. But trying to set up this new X-Men team, going against Apocalypse here, or exploring the powers of pretty much everyone, although some get more time to shine than others, such as Professor Xavier and Jean Grey, and even Cyclops and everything. So, some get some more time to shine than others, including Wolverine, because you can't have an X-Men movie without Wolverine. But we see him here just after being infused with the adamantium, so that's how he gets his adamantium back in this timeline. We see him with the helmet and everything, pretty much having the Weapon X look that he had in the comics with the helmet and the underwear. He's not totally nude this time around, but going on a rampage, killing just about everybody in Stryker's base after Stryker captures our mutant friends, although it's more or a bit of like a detour, but it does lead to them getting the jets and the suits that they have in order to go and fight Apocalypse. It justifies the means there. But we see the cameo from Wolverine, pretty much just doing Wolverine stuff. And I don't think Hugh Jackman says a word, but he doesn't necessarily need to. And they put him over, or in a big way there, even having Jean Grey interact with him, granting him part of his memory back after having lost it as a result of the experiment. And so, of course, they set this up in Days of Future Past, when he was captured from the water by Mystique posing as William Stryker. So kind of trying to tie some stuff up, but also leaving some questions there. But now, in terms of what I didn't really like as much about the movie, for starters, like I said, I wish some more characters got a bit more time to shine here. At about 2 hours and 35 minutes or so, I believe this might be the longest X-Men movie, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just gonna look at the. All right, sorry about that. My camera messed up, but I think it might be the longest X-Men movie. But I do wish some of the characters got a bit more time to shine, and I do wish some stuff was explored a little bit more. Or it feels like Magneto just turns back after a short speech from Mystique and Quicksilver. I wish they would have explored him coming back to the side of the X-Men. I wish that was explored a bit more, and they did a bit more with that. At at and and yeah, so some stuff I do wish was explored a bit more, and then we get to Apocalypse himself. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of this design, and the reason I say they kind of scratched the surface is because he is a very powerful mutant, and he is a very dangerous mutant, and they kind of show that with him doing stuff like setting off the missiles, destroying a lot of land and stuff, building his pyramid, having his horsemen and of the apocalypse. But in terms of appearance, he's too skinny, which I know is something I've said. It's pretty much like almost like on an X-Men bingo card, a character being too skinny. Like Apocalypse has some heft to him. He definitely has some size to him. But here he's too skinny. You're too skinny, man. And like Apocalypse, thankfully he does have the ability to increase size. He did so in Professor Xavier's mind, but otherwise he's too skinny. Now, the actor for him, aka Oscar Isaac. Excuse me, Oscar Isaac, if I'm not mistaken, is the one who plays him. And I have the wiki here for reference, and yes, that's him. But he did have like heels and everything to make himself look taller, and they have a lot of parts on him, which apparently he according to wiki here was very hot for him, especially in the environment where they were shooting like the final battle scene, and so he had to cool off. But I do wish he had some more heft to him. And in terms of his powers, he is very powerful, but he should be more powerful than that. At like the X-Men do like combine their powers to try to take him out and everything at the end, and with like Cyclops' blast and him taking off the glasses, which they have, of course, the ruby quartz glasses to prevent Cyclops from destroying just about everything in his path by opening his eyes. But I do wish he was a bit more powerful, and he is stopped by a very powerful force in the Phoenix. But I do wish they did a little bit more in terms of his power, and I do wish he was a bit more on like the hefty side. And like his parents, him being blue and everything, which is not nice, but all the parts and stuff I do wish was a little bit better. And some stuff I wish was explored a bit more. But otherwise, I think the movie was okay. Do I dislike it as much as I did back then? Again, not really. Looking back on it now that I had the chance to revisit, it isn't as like I don't necessarily want to say bad, but isn't as like kind of bland and dull as I remember it being. It does have some of those moments, and I feel like sometimes there is a bit too much setting up, which it may seem kind of contradictory. Like Nigel, you said they didn't go further, but they do setting up and stuff. They set up some stuff, but not only do I wish they would have went further, but I wish they would have sprinkled a bit more of like the action and stuff in there. Or with like superhero movies, stuff like that. You kind of want to balance it out. And I feel like the movie doesn't really balance it as well as it could have. But I didn't dislike it as much as I did back then, but still not really my favorite X-Men movie. But nevertheless, that's gonna do it for this review. We are almost done. Only about four more movies left to go in the X-Men series. Yes, four more movies left to go, so we're almost at the end. But what a journey it's been thus far. And obviously, at the end, I'm going to be doing the retrospective like I did with some of the other like movie series that I've done before. So we're gonna be talking about those and stuff. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor and like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the movie and my review of the movie. Did you dislike the movie? Did you dislike my review of the movie? Let me know. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.